Justin, I think it's time that we talk about AI agents again because it's not going away and it is something that people still need to be learning about, but moving with caution and awareness.
Right. And I think we kick it off first with automation versus agents, because that's a lot of you and I get is, how do we use agents to automate? And people think they're interchangeable when really automation's been around for a long time. It's essentially, you know, competitive tasks with little to no human intervention. It could be something as simple as, manufacturing process to streamlining a workflow with something like Microsoft Power Automate to where it really removes you out. Think zombie tasks is how I've heard it called, things that take little to no creativity and they're just following the motions. There's things that you could do such as scripting or triggers or things like that. Now, agents are where you really get into processes that do involve decisions. However, many agents are touted as learning. And so the ideal case is to have a workflow that an agent can learn what to do and adapt and make real-time decisions and without human intervention. So it's kind of the next level of automation.
And let's back up also in comparing prompting to agents.
With prompting, as you know by now, you're kind of driving the conversation. You're prompting it, you're getting an output, you're prompting based on what you want to do, what maybe you need to refine. And so you're directly involved in that. With an agent, there's really two ways to initiate. You can initiate an agent, such as the paid version of ChatGPT, where you provide a prompt and it carries out your instructions based on the desired output, which is a real basic agentic framework. Or you have something like Zapier or Make or N8N, where you have agents and you have directions to where when they reach a decision, they're supposed to make a decision or have predefined choices that they make within a workflow. And that is set off by a trigger. So, for example, with, say, ChatGPT and its agent, I prompt it. It carries out what I need it to carry out with minor decisions based on what it comes up against. And then it provides an output. Something more advanced, maybe like Zapier, where I have a workflow set out to where, say, a customer completes a form and the trigger is that form then populating a row in a spreadsheet. When that row is populated, that triggers the workflow and the agent then takes over and maybe you gave it a prompt internally that whenever a new form is submitted, it runs it through that prompt by itself. It completes a task such as creating a Google Doc that has certain structure. Maybe it's a kickoff, a project kickoff plan. And once that's populated, it saves it and then sends you an email with the link. Really no human intervention unless something goes wrong. And so if you get ideally 10 forms completed, then it's going to be 10 triggers, 10 processes, 10 emails to you. And then all you have to do is open the link, check over it, refine it how you want, and it's removed you completely from the process.
And then contrasting agents to deep research or deep thinking with AI systems.
And so what most of us think of with deep thinking is, well, I'm going to go to Google and I'm going to have it do deep research. And what how that is different from, say, basic prompting and agents is, basic prompting, you're kind of doing a surface level. Maybe if you don't do web search, it's just going to run it through the training data or what it's been trained on, and it's going to give you an output from that. With agents, we just covered how that's kind of a pre-defined workflow. With deep research, there's certain parameters built into that once you initiate the prompt, it may ask you a few refining questions to see exactly, the parameters it's going to fit in. And then it has a set structure in which it's going to go research and bring back information. And what you're going to see is that's pretty steady, whether it's Copilot ChatGPT or Gemini, they're all going to ask some refining questions. They're all going to really explain their, as they say, reasoning of why they chose certain sources, how they went about doing it. And in a way, it's kind of like chain of thought where it's going through a process in order to bring back more in-depth results, whereas your basic prompting is kind of, this is what I want, here it is.
Justin, let's just show them in our paid ChatGPT where deeper research is versus AI agents. And maybe you could do an extremely simple AI agent request so they can see how it opens up windows and goes through things. And then I want to talk a little bit about safety.
All right, sounds good. So we're going to be using the app, the desktop app here. So you see it here. Of course, we're using ChatGPT 5.1. When we go into our input bar, you'll go to options. Of course, you'll see deep research, agent mode, and I can click on more. And so if I were to go to deep research, you can see it's highlighted here. And perhaps I want to do research, describe, or how about this? Provide an in-depth
Do something on
explanation
agents.
of automation versus agents.
Good.
Everything's normal so far. You see, it's just like if I were prompting it. Here's one of those clarifying examples here. So it wants to clarify the context of what I'm looking at. So business ops, DevOps, customer service, something else. We're going to look at business operations. We'll do business operations and operational workflows. All right, and so now it's starting its research. And so if we wanted to, we could probably, while that's going, it's depending. So the three tools I mentioned earlier, Microsoft Copilot, Gemini, and ChatGPT. With ChatGPT and Gemini, essentially once you kick it off, it's going to, start giving you a timer and a status bar on when it's going to be done. Microsoft Copilot approach there is a little bit different. So when you go into prompt, there's essentially three levels. There's a quick search, and it even gives you, 3 to 30 seconds. Think deeper, which is typically about 3 to 5 minutes, and then it has its deep research, which says 10 plus minutes. That is structured in a little bit different of a way to where they have the structure set in multiple ways to where you get to, in a way, customize more how in depth you want to be. For example, if I'm trying to find an answer for a customer or for something that's pretty urgent, I'm probably not going to go deep research because that could take 10 to 15 or so minutes. But I may need more than just that real quick interchange or back and forth. So they give you that middle option there. And again, this is always going to change. Just to give you a little bit of a highlight, just in the last 3 weeks, we've had three different models claiming to be the best one. GPT-5 and all of a sudden Google 3 and now Claude, the new Claude Opus has come out, and each of them have just knocked the other two down a peg. And so this is going to be constantly changing. Martin really did a good job earlier of saying, you got to keep up to date. You got to make sure you keep up with at least what the updates are, how they work, and how to be safe with them, because you could wake up tomorrow and all of a sudden there's a whole new player in town. And really don't panic about that. Don't really focus on that as much. What you really need to focus on is the fundamentals, what they do, how to use them effectively, and just pick one. Pick one, get used to it, learn on it. If you can do that, then really all those skills you're going to be learning are going to be pretty transferable.
Excellent. Now let's bring up an agent and demonstrate a simple request with an agent.
We're going to do a real simple request. One thing about agents is you see here, you have so many prompts that you can do within a 1 month span. And so I think it's about 40. And then if you run out of those, you wait until the next month to get a refill. What I recommend, we're going to do just a quick demo here, but what I really recommend if you want to get the most out of it is to start with a basic prompt without the agent initiated or activated and work through, maybe ask me 5 questions one at a time so I can answer to help me develop an agent prompt. And that's key right there, agent prompt. And then have it work with you to create one really in-depth agent prompt so you get the most out of that return. But for the sake of what we're doing here, I'm actually going to go back in. Let's see. I'm going to ask it essentially the same question.
Yeah, I
So,
just want to reiterate that is don't rule out using this simple system to help you build an agent prompt and then review it to make sure it's what you want. And that's the best way to get the most out of the number of agents you get. We are at the $20 a month level to demonstrate this. And you
and
notice the word agent underneath. He selected it and he picked agent right there. That's the key. And the web is turned on. I can't imagine why you'd not want the web on for that, but still, it's on. Now, do you see that setting up desktop? So this is like it's going out to do work for you. It's sort of like thinking something running down the street and getting something versus researching.
it essentially you see live down here.
Yeah.
It's essentially to a degree setting up kind of like a virtual desktop within the chat. Now, what's really interesting here, which deep research is not going to do for you, is I could ask the agent to, and I have, we've done a video on this before, where we asked the agent to do some research and build a script that would create a spreadsheet within my Google Drive. And so what happened, if you're familiar with, your IT department doing remote desktop, that's kind of what it felt like because when it got to the Google website, it asked me to log in to my account, in which I did. I have it connected with my Google account anyway. I logged in, and as soon as I logged in, it asked permission. It went directly to my drive. It opened a spreadsheet and it started building. And what was really cool, I thought, about this was that while it built the spreadsheet, it actually had a bubble pop up, like a text bubble, and it explained to me what it was doing at each step. So really, I took advantage of that and I learned from it and saw how it went about building the spreadsheet. And so you see that right here. It's saying I will scroll through and do this. So it's explaining to you if you watch what it's doing. So right now, apparently it has visited Crossfuse, crossfuse.com. And apparently there's an article up there on AI agents versus traditional automation. And so what it's doing is it's reading through that. It's doing some research. It's now going to Zapier, which is a well-known agentic and automation based tool. And so it's doing its research. And eventually, what happens is when it's done, it will provide the output. It may even build a spreadsheet for me. My my account by this point has realized that I do a lot of work with scripts and spreadsheets, and so typically when I get a deliverable, it's learned that I enjoy spreadsheets. And so almost every time it provides a deliverable instead of a PDF or Word, it actually builds it in spreadsheet as a CSV file, and then I download that and I work with it. That's how I organize a lot.
The example you gave of going into your Google Slides and then creating a Google slide, hopefully people are seeing how that makes it very different than just
Hmm.
deep research. It's
Right.
more like to me more going and doing something with different stages where we might want to stop. And while you're doing this, let's just add we want to move at simple levels for safety here because this is where it's going out. If we give it access to something or it goes to a site that's trying to be one thing when it's really another, this is where some risk can occur. And we recommend testing with non-critical things to understand these different features.
Now, if this is a little overwhelming to you and you don't want to get into this yet, one thing that can start to kind of give you a feel for building some of this automation and routine are actually tasks. And Martin has taught this in the past where it gives you an understanding of the kind of the baby building blocks of how to frame your questions and frame around how to automate something. And tasks is something, let's see, we'll get it
They
pulled
got
up.
top AI news right there. That's your latest task.
Right. And so for some reason, I think because I have deep research going on
Yeah, yeah.
and
You got it
I've got
busy.
I've got it busy. And so let's see. We're going to go in. Actually, I organize because they tasks can sometimes get mixed in with the rest of everything else. I actually built a project that I store my tasks in so I can find them easier.
Mhm.
And yes, I think it is under a bit of a load right now. So here, let's see. Here we go. November 24th. What I'm working on now is actually building out my own newsletter. So those 20 newsletters that caught my eye and I wanted to jump into that I don't read anymore, I want to build my own. And so what I did is I just hit the microphone while I was driving in the car, had a conversation about what I wanted. I gave it, what I do each day. How can we build something that'll help me do that? You can see here, it's a conversation. And so it's asking certain things. I gave it a schedule, implement this daily. We're building that framework. It's given me some ideas here. And then what happens is as we get more technical, I'm actually starting to understand how it's piecing it together. It actually gives me more strategic feedback on how it can better provide what I need it to. And so from there, that's an older one I built. We're going to go up to today where I actually had it. I did some updates with it. And so what's interesting about this too is even though that's an older one, you can at any time change them. Just like if you're using an agent, you can change the workflow. And so I actually updated it. And this just shows that progression of I started with something very simple. I got used to how it was delivered daily. I got used to the framework of it and I learned from it. And so now I wanted to make it something more strategic. And so
Mhm.
I told it that. And so what it did, here's an example of a question here where it said, you know, how strategic do you want it to be? Do you want it to have an executive tone, a relaxed tone? What do you want the ratio to be? Do you want this to be something that's going to be a relaxing type of read, or do you want it to be something that hits you and really inspires you throughout the day? And so it's asking me some pretty in-depth questions. And so you can see the structure here. I have this nice, neat workflow, which is my newsletter, in which I can dig deeper in, I can flesh it out, I can make it more robust, and that will be delivered to me every day. And so this is one newsletter to replace them all. And so that's a really good way to start out. We're going to check in, let's see, in our deep research, see how that went first. Let's see. Yeah, here's an example of the deep research. So it gives us
Mhm.
essentially a report that I can download. And it's written in a report, introduction, definitions. Here's key differences, strategic advantages and disadvantages of each, use cases, integration strategies. I never asked for that, but again, this is all things that are tied to the topic, trends and future outlooks, and then sources. So it actually gives me sources. That way, if I want to dig into it later, I can actually go deeper. So that's deep research. And again,
Mhm.
it provided exactly research.
And now let's
Now,
go back and check in our agent, see what it's doing. It looks like it might be done.
all right. And so our agent worked for 5 minutes. It even gave us our clock in, clock out. It gave us a real basic overview, what they do, key differences, and a nice chart, when to use it, advice for leaders. And so in here, this brings up a good point. You might say, well, looks like deep research did a lot better job of giving you the answer. Yeah, deep research is going to do a better job of giving me an in-depth answer. That's because deep research, that's what its function is. An agent isn't just your standard do research for me. Now, if I had asked the agent to conduct that research, take that research, go into my Google Drive, open a Google Doc, save it as a Google Doc, and then format it in a certain way, yes, it could do that. Deep research could not do that because it couldn't make decisions or carry out actions. And so, yes, if I had put in conduct deep research and then the agent would have conducted deep research, it would have pulled it per my parameters, and then it would have carried out those tasks. So that's where it takes it to a deeper level. Whereas deep research is not going to do anything but provide you with content. And think of it as a very intense prompt output.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think we wanted to give you another just look at the different ones. And then, Justin, let's close with a few safety tips because it's so important. The big thing is work with non-critical material first and possibly do something where you have deep research and an agent work on the same thing. They are different tools, but it's a beginning level in understanding this. What else do you think is important for basic safety in these areas, especially with agents?
Definitely just make sure you're aware of what you have connected to your account and very clear instructions on what you want it to do. Because if you don't want something accessed by an agent when you're giving it instructions, make sure you have that account disconnected or be very clear on the limitations to the agent and the constraints in what it can do.
And another thing would be is if you ask it to do something, you might want it to pause before it spends money or something. It
Mm-hmm.
might let you enter
Right.
that data. Don't hand it the access codes to your bank or something like that, where it might take it to the level. The other thing, Justin, is we want to watch out for it misunderstanding a known site, which is
Mm-hmm.
really a fake site trying to trick agents. This is something we'll be updating people on safety going forward. But what if there was something that was able to look like PayPal, and you say, I want you to go in here and send this person money in PayPal and sign in, when in actuality, it really wasn't
Mm-hmm.
PayPal and you just handed over your sign in and password. That's where we want to let you know this is a cat and mouse game and you want to be alert and paying attention, but make sure you're still learning this stuff because it's going to be so hard to catch up if all you do is put your hands up and just
Mm-hmm.
say, I'm this is scary, I'm staying away from it.
That's a great point because recently, Martin, we were teaching a class and not even on agents, we were using the Edge browser with Microsoft Copilot to analyze attendee websites. And we typically it's, how can we improve this website? What can we do to make it, bring in more traffic? And we got an alert about some malicious activity on the site. And, without, it was a food service. It was a very mild, nothing malicious about it. But in inspecting the website, Copilot picked up something malicious
Yep.
And, we asked the owner of the site, please go in, double check everything, make sure your security is up to date, because apparently what it's reading is someone might be piggybacking on your site. And so, there are things out there where even a honest business site could be hijacked and could lead to all sorts of trouble too. So there's always something out there that can be a potential malicious activity. So just, try to keep up to date with the different types. We don't expect you to get an advanced cyber security degree or certification, but at least be aware of your real basic security, online, digital safety, things like that, just enough to really safeguard you and your data and your money.
Excellent. That's it. Good. Let's hear how you're using these and what you're learning. Put the comments below. Also, check out, we have a lot of resources and you can find them below, including our training, our consulting, and we have our mission, which is transforming North Carolina to be the leader in the appropriate, ethical, and profitable use of AI. So check it out. This is Martin Brossman.
And Dr. Justin Rose.